From the center of the universe, Toronto, Ontario, Canada, this is the SDM Show with your host, Rob Cairns. The SDM Show focuses on business, life, productivity, digital marketing, WordPress, and more. Sit back, relax, grab your favorite drink, and enjoy the show. Here is Rob.
I'm Rob Cairns. I'm the founder, CEO, and chief technologist at Stunning Digital Marketing. At today's show, I have Mr. Todd Jones with me, and Todd and I are going to talk year in review for 2025 for copywriting. Sit back, relax, enjoy the show. The SDM Show is brought to you by Stunning Digital Marketing, the digital marketing concierge that helps you put all your marketing pieces together. We are your marketing experts. We are also your WordPress security experts and know how to lock down a website and protect yourself from bad actors. So contact us at Stunning Digital Marketing today. Hey, everybody, Rob Cairns here. And today I have my good friend from Arkansas, Mr. Todd E. Jones. Hey, Todd, how you doing, man?
Hey Rob, what's going on, man? Can you
At
hear
the
me
time
okay?
of this, yeah, well, you know what's going on in my life. It's a little on the insanity side, but
Yeah,
that's the way it goes. And at the time of
yeah,
this record, we're 5 days, not 5 days, 8 days away from Christmas and Santa, right? And
yeah, yeah. Well, a week from tomorrow, right? Um,
weekend
and the
tomorrow.
family Christmas I have will be the 26th, so it's actually more like 9 days. I got a little
Yeah,
time to pick up some gifts still.
yeah, a little
So,
time. They're still Amazon. They still deliver next day. You know.
I don't have Prime, but I still may go there and look because I think they'll get it to me pretty quick. They
Yeah.
can tell me if they can get it to me pretty quick. So,
So today I thought, and I've done this with my other co-hosts, we've kind of wrapped the year up a little bit. You're a regular contributor on the copywriting side, and thank you for that. It's been a good year. You were actually the first co-host that I went to for a regular segment, right? And we kind of put it on
I
hold.
thought Ryan was before me.
You're right. Ryan was first, you were second. Sorry.
Yeah.
But
I don't want to
but
take his thunder away.
no, he'll just sick those two monsters on us, and you know how that will go, right? So, but
They'll use those big sad eyes and empathetic us to death.
yeah, and
Shooter
we've
and
kind of
Bud.
put, yeah, true. We've kind of put our spot on hold a little bit. I mean, you've had a lot going on. I've had a lot going on. It's just the way life is sometimes. But
Yeah.
I thought we'd jump in and talk about bit and summarize what we've talked about this year in copywriting, maybe some stuff to look forward to. Two things I want to share right off the top is I did a solo show this week, sharing with this before we went there. And I actually used Gemini to write the social media posts for that show for Twitter. Now, the only thing for Twitter X it got wrong was the length was two, so I had to shorten it a bit.
Yeah.
Blue Sky, Facebook, and LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Um, you're a copywriter. What do you think of that use?
I, you know, if you have a good prompt with good mechanics, I think that you can. I really like that I'm assuming you use a transcript to do that. Is that what you did?
What I did was so the way I produce the show notes is I take the audio of this podcast
Hmm.
and I upload it to Notebook LMN,
Hmm.
which gives me a summary and then spits out a text transcript.
Okay,
Then I
that's
take
good.
then I actually correct the names in the summary and say the summary. So that summary becomes the summary on the website, the summary on YouTube, and the summary for the audio podcast.
Yeah, yeah.
And then what I do,
You could probably make your prompt where the person talking is Rob Cairns and the host
I could,
is
but
Tim
yeah,
Nash
I know that.
and
And
probably
then what I do is I take it one further. I take that word for word transcript, correct the names in it and the company names because for example, Gemini likes to spell my name with a K all the time,
Yeah.
and so
Yeah.
I got to fix that. And then I import that transcript into Gemini and say, generate show notes
Yeah.
from
Yeah.
this. And it
Yeah.
generates nice.
Gemini's a great LLM for that too, by the way. It's really good with summaries and stuff like that.
Yeah. And then when I generate the show notes, I'll export it as a Google Doc, which I'll turn around and download as an Office document. The one thing you do have to be careful of is Gemini likes to put in nice little graphic characters in its text. I would say to anybody doing WordPress, do not import those characters because it will cause problems with the WordPress dashboard. So just a little tip there. But
What kind of
then,
characters?
yeah, like you'll put in like little microphones and things in the text,
Oh, emojis. Okay.
emojis.
Yeah. But you probably
WordPress
need to have
doesn't.
your emoji thing turned on in WordPress if you're going to use that. But yeah, I
Yeah.
hear what you're saying. Yeah.
And then from that, I can say, turn the above text into a Facebook post, turn the
Right.
above into a Twitter post. And it does it so elegantly. And I don't have to think about readjusting my text.
Yeah. So
What do you think
I
about
think
that?
you get good solid posts with that. Probably not
Hmm.
extraordinary posts, if that makes any sense.
Yep.
Remarkable. I like to use that word remarkable. Um, with a good solid prompt, you could probably make a more extraordinary post. But it all comes down to the mechanics of how you write it. But for somebody who's not a great writer, great at summarizing, or don't have the headspace, because that's part of me. Sometimes I just don't have the headspace to deal with this right
Yep.
now, but I need to get it
Yep.
up. It is a great thing. And honestly, Gemini, ChatGPT, and Claude are all going to do a pretty solid job. But like I said, it's probably not going to be extraordinary, but it's going to be good. So yeah, I think that's and I have used LLMs, but one of them, I don't remember which one, to do Twitter threads. I haven't done one in a long time because I don't get much organic reach on Twitter at all. I like to tweet, I like to follow stuff, but hardly anybody interacts with my stuff until I give Elon $9 a month or whatever. I'm not going to have much organic reach, which is sad because Twitter was like my favorite one back in the day. But that's really the nature of all the algo gods. They have kind of shut down organic reach. But yeah, it's a great use case for it. And I actually, based on a post on LinkedIn, I found another use case for ChatGPT, which blew me away. Alex Stein, is that his name? He's a
Yep.
WordPress
He is.
developer.
I know, Alex.
He's blind, and he used ChatGPT to get instructions to walk to a store. He said it was remarkably good. He said it got me really close. And I thought that's interesting because you have it on your phone. Like, if you have it on your phone and you put the thing in there, suddenly you've got some instructions, and I'm sure it probably reads it to him so he knows how to walk there. I know people are using Gemini on their phone a lot. I actually talked to a couple ladies in a coffee shop today. One's a local business owner, and they both talk about using Gemini because they're pre-installed on their phone now, if you have
Yep.
Android. So
If
Gemini is
if you
making
if you have a Pixel
headways in,
phone, they're certainly
yeah,
pre-installed.
yeah. And Copilot is becoming used by people. So I have a friend who is a technical writer for a company, and they have clients. And because of client information, they can't use the online LLMs, right? So Copilot is installed on your computer. So you can do that without worrying about information that shouldn't be out. And so she uses Copilot a lot. And as long as she has information on her computer, she can use it to create a slide deck or whatever. It's pretty astonishing. People are starting to pick up on use cases for AI, and creating a content for the platforms is a really good, solid use case because sometimes we just don't have the headspace to come up with something. But I was telling you before we got on the show that I took a pretty solid framework for authority content on LinkedIn and made a prompt for it, and it's in the school of content. So anybody in my community has access to that. I don't know that I'm going to ever put it outside of that, um, but it was a well done content framework for LinkedIn authority content done by a person who is really good in the content marketing space. And he posted it on LinkedIn, and I took the information and turned it into a prompt. So I'm thinking about making a gym out of it too, by the way. So
Todd,
I have access to
for,
it. Yeah.
for those who don't know your school content, what's the URL if they want to join?
Community.copyflight.com, I believe, is one day I'm going to have a unique URL for that, but right now it's community.copyflight.com. If you go to copyflight.com/free, there is a link you can see where you can sign up to the school content as well. But yeah, that's the URL for that. We've got a lot of things in there. Some little mini courses in there. I do drop a lot of prompts in there for people who are trying to do content. And I'm hoping somebody offered their podcast course to me. So I'm hoping to put that up in 2026, which would be
I'm hoping to get that finished soon, but as you know, I've had a lot
no
on
worries,
my
man.
plate.
Oh, I know. Yeah, so like in January, my mom is having a knee revision surgery, so that's going to consume some of my time. So I
Yep.
totally know what you're talking about. I know you've been dealing with that with your friend for the last few weeks, and so that slows things down. You know, that's the thing about having goals. And I have now been in two sessions, two or three
Yep.
online like video things with another group where we talked
Mhm.
about like what's for the new year. And it's kind of like, I don't know yet. I haven't even had a chance to reflect on this year, like what's
Yep.
happened and what I need to do next year. And then I think about it, it's like when you get really aggressive with goals, life happens. And I don't mean that as an excuse. It's just it's reality. If you are able to be aggressive with goals without life interfering, you're in a good place. But life will interfere. You got a friend who has a surgery. You got to help that person recover. You got a parent who has a surgery. See, my mom
Yep.
had one last February too. You have your own health problems. You have, something else that happens that's unexpected. People who have kids and families like that, they have issues with families. The reality is, most of us aren't marketing bros who have no responsibilities outside of business and can go full head of steam toward aggressive goals. It just doesn't happen. Most of us have. That's the reality of a solopreneur, a self-employed person. So anyway,
Mhm.
sorry, I kind of got off on a tangent there.
No, no, it's fine. The other thing I wanted, as we look back at last year, one of the things that struck out to me was, and I've known you a long time, and I appreciate our friendship more than you realize, is you always talk about, sorry, storytelling, really important in marketing, because we all know that companies work with people they like, not the products and services. 'Cause let's be honest, most of what we do can be commoditized now, even what I do. It's how do I work with my clients? How do you work with your clients? And one of the things that we talked a lot about was developing a founder story recently.
Mhm.
And in a recent episode where I did a quick solo 5-minute show, I broke down that one of the biggest problems companies have when they get into marketing is they don't have the foundation solid. And one of the suggestions I made, and I give kudos to you, and my Substack said that I gave you a hat tip yesterday, that you need to develop a founder story and tell your story because that helps people get to know you. What do you think about that?
I guess so. Yeah.
You guess so.
Being
Come
a little
on.
sarcastic. I mean, yeah, I understand both sides of this, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, I think you do need, at the very least, if you have a company, an origin story, founder
Yep.
story, whatever you want to call it, and just to kind of know where you come from. But I just put out this. It's not on Gumroad yet, but it is in um, a I don't know when this is going to come out, but by the end of the year it'll be closed down. But it's called The Vault, It's got a number of things in it, but one of them is an about page roadmap. Solopreneurs about page roadmap. It could be founders or whatever. And it is a massive 40-page workbook for about pages. Well, knowing where you're going sometimes follows knowing where you come from.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Um, and you can figure out what I call your brand DNA if you
Yep.
do a thorough job of digging into, why your why. I talk about the 6 Ps in the about page framework, because and essentially they are, I call it your brand DNA. It's your brand DNA. And it kind of formulated my legacy story framework, which we talked about on the episode a while back. But yeah, I mean, you kind of got to know who you are. There's over the last 15 years or so, we've been heavy digital marketing,
Yep.
and with good reason. Um,
Yep.
some of that is evaporating before our eyes. The way we have done it for 15 years, that market book,
No question.
that playbook has kind of left the building. But we really went heavy on knowing your audience. Totally
Yep.
agree with that. But we went so heavy, I feel like the pendulum swung that direction. And I have seen people not know who they are, but all they are trying to do is appeal to who they want. And there needs to be some sort of connection in between. Like
Mm-hmm.
who you are should connect with who you're targeting. And I have seen companies, I was thinking about this the other day. I feel like things like values and stuff like that is not really their values. It's just what they want their customer to think their values are,
Yeah.
because they're trying to, and you run a risk of being like a charlatan, right? You're just trying to be something you're not, and it doesn't work. You've got to be who you are while you're still trying to reach the people that benefit from your service or your product. Does that make sense? I'm kind of abstract.
It does very much so. Yes.
And I
And
have
I
said in the
agree.
past, that your story connecting with your audience's story is where the magic happens.
I
It's
agree.
where the fireworks, the sparks happen. So
I agree.
yeah, you got to go
I
back and
think
figure out that.
I think stories are really important. I mean, one of the things, and I'll share with you, I think I told you a couple of weeks ago in one of our many conversations that I had changed the title on my business card and my profiles. So I used to label my title as CEO, founder, and chief digital strategist. I now label my title as CEO, founder, and chief technologist. And that's interesting. And somebody said, "Why would you do that?" And I was looking back at the founder story. You and I worked together. I was looking back at some things and thinking about where my career has gone and what I've done. And I said, really, I'm more than just a digital strategist. I'm a technologist, more first and foremost. And
Yeah.
that actually helped me formulate some of the other text I was working on. So there's other benefits even internally of doing that.
Yeah, I mean, in reality is, that all of us have more than one thing we're,
Mhm.
I guess, good at, for lack of a better word. And
Yep.
and these days now, you got to have more than one. The specialty era is almost over. In spite of
Well,
the fact that you keep
sorry.
seeing people talk about it, being a specialist at something. Well, that doesn't do you. I mean, you can get a
As
job
much.
in corporate America as a specialist, perhaps, but if you're in business, I'm not saying you got to be a specialist at everything. Don't misunderstand what I'm
Yeah.
saying, but you've got to know. And so, storytelling is one of those skills that you need to have some semblance of. Now, how do you implement whatever it is that you're good at? You're a technologist, but you're a strategist. So you help people with this technology and the strategy of the technology, but it helps inform their marketing. It's kind of a unique crossroads that you have there.
Yeah.
And so I have recently put on my LinkedIn and I've had a couple people say something about it. Story archaeologist.
I've seen
I
that.
don't know.
Yeah, I love
It's
it.
just kind of abstract, but it does come back to one of the things I've done fairly well at in the last 15 years is kind of pull out the story from what already exists.
Yeah.
And I mean, I did it when I wrote about startup people in Arkansas.
Yep.
I did it for blog posts. I mean, I've
Yep.
kind of done that. And so, maybe that's probably what I'm best at. It
Mhm.
doesn't always pay the bills, but that's nevertheless what I'm pretty good at. And a
But
friend of mine, immediately after I put that up, a friend of mine sent me a message. He goes, "That's so you, Todd. That's exactly what you
yeah,
are." I was like, "Okay."
yeah.
And then yesterday somebody said something about it. So
And a little hat tip to all those using LinkedIn. If you make a change to your profile, it notifies all your friends that you changed your profile. So it's like an indication to go back and look at your profile. So what
yeah,
I would suggest, it's not really what we're talking about, is take your profile once in a while. It's a good idea. Um,
yeah, maybe take a look at it every quarter and see if there's something that you can adjust.
yeah.
But
So moving forward, so we talked about founder story. We've talked a little bit about origin story. What else this past year was really important in the copywriting world? We've talked about AI. What else?
Well, I could probably think about that more in terms of what will be. And
Yeah,
this article
go
came
ahead.
out last week in the Wall Street Journal, and this is more or less a jumping off point for me, not so much about storytelling, but it was like companies are desperate for storytellers, Wall Street Journal. And you look
Mhm.
at the article and really the titles, some of them may have the word storyteller in them. Some of them are various types of roles that include storytelling that have always been around: content writing, content strategy, content marketing, copywriting, those types of things. But what you're seeing, I think, is and we are seeing is the pendulum swinging back a little bit. Once the AI, the generative AI, they call it LLMs that we use, Claude, Gemini, ChatGPT, etc. Um, Once they came out, people started like using, oh, we can use this to write our content on social media. We can use this to write our blog posts. And they went down that road. And when they did, started trying to make it work. And then you started the corporate companies started laying people off. In some cases, I heard of companies laying off or getting rid of an entire marketing department, which is, I'm trying not to say something I regret, but not a very smart move. You don't lay
Would
off
agree.
all of your marketing department. And I mean, I could use more coarse language, but I think I'll pass on that right now. But they just completely decimated their marketing department and their content and the copy in favor of just use ChatGPT. Let's go find a prompt, whatever. Look, I am not against using that stuff, but what they have found out is not so simple. Yeah, you can put out a post, a summary of a podcast, whatever. But when you're talking about doing the strategy, the why behind it, the mechanisms for making a great post or a great blog post, or those kinds of things, ChatGPT is just going to give you the average. It's going to be good. It's not going to be extraordinary. It's not going to be remarkable, and that's if you know how to use it. Now, believe you, I've listened to and talked to a lot of copywriters and content writers. Many of them use AI for stuff. I mean, it's one of those things where the analogy I like to use, and I think you have enough people listen that maybe they'll understand this. Probably 10 years ago or so, we started having a rash of web builders come out in WordPress. So before then, you'd go in and you would adjust the CSS or make a new CSS file, whatever. You built your themes or you use and then suddenly you started having page builders that come out in the
Yep.
WordPress building, and suddenly everybody jumped in. Oh, I'm a web designer. I'm a web designer. What you found out was that many of them didn't really. They were just using these page builders. They didn't understand the logic behind it, the CSS, even the
Yep.
PHP and the JavaScript.
And they still
that
don't.
files, and they still don't. Yeah, and they call themselves a web. In fact, not only are they doing that in WordPress, they're doing it like people will call themselves web designers, and that means they're putting together a website with the GoDaddy Builder or some other Wix, Weebly, whatever. That's totally fine. I'm not no judgment, but the reality is the people who know how to use those tools best, especially in WordPress, were actually um, people who had been doing it all along. So I would point to Devender, right? Devender had been playing with CSS for years before Beaver Builder came out. Beaver Builder just allowed him to go to another level in terms of his skills. Same with our friend Paul Lacey. Those guys took
Or
something
even
like
Ryan.
Beaver Builder and
Ryan's a
Ryan.
CSS. Yeah.
Yeah, and so you take something like Beaver Builder, those three guys, and of course, they're all in our little group, but those three guys took their web design skills to another level.
Hmm.
That's a lot different than, you know, Catherine Joe, who decided to start using Elementor to build websites for people. Hey, and I no shame. If you can get paid to do it, knock yourself out. Go for it. A few years ago, I have a friend from college, and her son started a power washing business in the Memphis area. And he was a short stint. He was about to go. He's in the Navy now. But and she sent me a message. She had gotten him a site. I don't know what um, um, host she was on. It was one of the big hosts, and they basically could load. I think it was Elementor. I'm not sure. It was one of them, and she was asking me questions. She did the site for him. She said, "I told him. I said, son, this is a labor of love. I will never do this again for you because it was a lot more complex than she thought." But the host had kind of sold her that, oh, this is easy, do it yourself, blah, blah, blah. And a lot of people get in there and they find out it's not really that easy and it's time consuming to figure it out. So
By
she
the
paid me a
way,
little bit of money to consult her.
yeah, by the way, they've done the same thing with technology. Oh, a PC is
Oh, yeah.
easy. It's Windows plug and play. And we
Oh,
all
yeah.
know they're not that easy. And
No.
part of the problem is, as my friend Paul and mentor Paul Toby would have said, if you're not good at something, doing something, pay somebody. If you don't like doing it, pay somebody. And by the way, if you and concentrate on what makes you revenue. And this is where a lot of entrepreneurs are the backlog in their life is it's them, not what they're trying to do. So they don't want to outsource. They want to keep everything in the house. And they're actually hurting themselves because they're holding themselves back. And that's another story for another day. In
But to
terms,
say that the pendulum is starting to swing back to maybe we do need these people. But
yep,
I will say this, the what is probably going to happen, and it's happened in the dev world because I got a friend locally who's talked about this. In the dev world, they say, well, AI is eliminating junior developers. That's probably true. But a
yep,
lot of people got started as junior developers, but AI is
can be a
eliminating that.
problem.
Well, if you want to use that same analogy, it's eliminating junior writers and junior copywriters and junior content writers because things that we used to get a newbie to do or an intern to do, I mean, take press releases for example.
Yep,
I don't like press releases. I
I hate them.
if yeah, well, ChatGPT can do one just fine. So can Gemini, so can Claude. You can prompt it to do it the way you want it to do if you have a format and so forth.
But the problem,
Um,
Todd, is if AI eliminates all these junior jobs, how do we develop senior people if the development
Good,
isn't
good
there?
question.
You can't go from doing nothing to a senior job. So what's going to
Correct.
happen? That's a
Yeah,
problem.
and see, and normally some of those people would start out as at an agency, right? Or
Yeah,
they would start out helping smaller local businesses and get
yeah.
some, wins under their belt that way, and then move up. And what happens to the small businesses? They start using ChatGPT themselves. I don't know the answer. It's the same issue with developers. So if there's a drawback to AI that we have to deal with right now, is it may completely knock out junior type jobs in terms of both developing and
It's one of
copywriting.
it's one of the problems we have in the US with HB1 visas right now. And I wasn't going to turn this into a political show, but anyway, I'm going there. And you're laughing at me because you know where I'm going. And one of the complaints with HB1s is they're supposed to be for skilled tech workers. And a
Mhm.
lot of these companies have used them to bring in junior workers. Well, the
Mhm.
problem is how the hell do you develop the experience work? It's the same problem.
Yeah.
So anyway, let's move on.
I
So we've
don't know
talked.
the answer to your question, but it is a good question. I think what it's going to take is for content and copy agencies to develop some. They may not develop as many as they used to, but you may have to bring some junior level people in and develop them. They do need to learn the skills and the mechanics of these things, then to use AI properly to do the work they're doing at scale. So, it's just one of those things you're going to have to intentionally develop somebody. So content copy agencies will need to do that. They'll need to help. They'll be the ones that'll have to help with this. But anyway, it is
Yeah,
what it is.
yeah. Um, moving forward, in the last year, there's two real big people I like following on social for copyright, besides you. And everybody should follow Todd, but that's. One is Ross Simmons,
Mhm.
no question. And the other is our mutual friend, Andy Crestodino.
Mhm.
How
Yeah.
come? How come?
Andy wrote the book, right? I got it over there. Content, whatever it's called. It's a textbook, really. I mean, it's
It's
not
not,
like,
it's not, it's not, I have a copy of it.
yeah,
It sits on my
yeah,
nightstand at home.
yeah.
And
It's
I'll
not
tell
something you
you,
read at night when you want to go to bed. It's full of a lot of practical, tactical
yep,
stuff, which
yep,
Andy's great
yep,
at, by the way.
no question.
Um,
Orbit
yeah,
Media, if anybody doesn't know.
Andy and Ross, they're very good at the tactical, practical, while still being really good at the strategic level, which is why Andy has written it's a college textbook because he taught class for a while. He may still do it. I
No
don't know.
question. No
And
question.
college. And then Ross, on the other hand, has had the most unusual journey to being one of the top people. And really, neither one of them would call themselves copywriters. They're more content specialists in that regard. But actually, have done a founder story for Ross, and it's quite an interesting journey. The story is really interesting. I hope he. Well, I may put it up on my story vault one day if they don't have a problem with that. But anyway, it's a fascinating story, and perhaps I do one for Andy one day as well. But
I don't, I
Andy
don't
does.
think, I don't think
Go
Ross
ahead.
will have a problem with that. He's a lot like John Cena, the wrestler. He likes to elevate other people, right?
Yeah,
Like
yeah. He has
I had to
seen
go there.
in the email form, and then I sent them the ebook. I haven't heard back from them, but they're so dang busy. The story, and I have done about 4 or 5 of these, kind of as a prototype, if you will. And I probably will put them on a Substack at some point in my story vault, um,
Mhm.
using my method. There is a method to my madness, and it takes the existing information data. So it's that there's not a need for an actual interview unless you don't have it somewhere.
Mhm.
If you have to have if you haven't talked to people on podcasts to talk about your journey, written in articles, whatever, then we would have to do an interview. But if you
You and I did
have done
it.
all that,
You and I
we
did an
did do an
interview.
interview, and it was before
Yeah,
I was using the current setup. So, but I still had the access to the transcript, so that helped me tremendously when I went back and rewrote it the other day. So the one you saw last night was a rewritten version
yeah, I know.
using my system. But
But what you need to watch, and I pointed this out to you last night, and I've talked about
spelling
this
too.
with you and others, is spelling of names and brands. I run into this all the time with AI. They cannot
Yep.
spell names and brands properly. So you just remember,
Sure.
folks, if you're
Yeah.
using AI, check your work. Like really,
I
check
had
it.
actually sent the one I wrote for Ross to him, and his assistant sent back and said, Ross says it looks good. I wanted to make sure because I was basically curating the information from various sources, and
Hmm.
he said it looked good. Obviously, when you do that, you want to check with the founder, like, is this correct?
Yep.
I did another
Yep.
one for a girl named Alina Bonko. I can never say her last name. She's a Ukrainian marketer, product marketer that I'm connected with on LinkedIn and Reddit. And I showed it to her, and she said it looked good as well. A little story just about her. She'll fill that out. She gets in the business longer, but these stories are fascinating, and it helps people connect to you. And they can see that, oh, well, the old iceberg analogy people talk about all the time.
Yep.
People see the top part, out sticking out of the water, but they don't see what's below, which is all the hard work, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. They feel like it feels to them like you have become a success overnight. There's really very little overnight success. Whoever pops up all of a sudden has been doing something for, there's a few exceptions to that rule. Most of the time, they have been working their tail end off for years to
Hmm.
get to that
Hmm.
point where they got their break.
Yep.
I mean, and it's really true in entrepreneurship. I think these stories need to be told just for other entrepreneurs to feel like to hang in there, to be encouraged to keep going. But it also helps people, I like the stories of, so the LL Bean story is fascinating to me as well. And so I'm not going to talk about it because I'd get it wrong if I did. But if you're listening to this, LL Bean story, I think that's well documented online. Go find the LL Bean story, which is widely considered one of the best outdoor brand wear of clothes in at
Yep.
least North America. And
Yep.
there's a story behind it. It involves a little bit of failure. So,
It's one of the
uh,
reasons I love the Business Wars podcast by Wonderly, because what they do is they talk about two companies in a sector, but they also give you the background, how those companies were developed. So let me give you an
yeah.
example of that. We all know Kellogg's Rice Krispies.
Oh yeah.
Did you know
Snap,
that
crackle, pop.
Rice Krispies were developed by Dr. Kellogg to give to his psychiatric patients before a day of treatment because it was cheap and easy to give?
I did not know that, but it makes
And
sense.
that's where Rice Krispies. There's a story.
Yeah.
And when you say that,
He
you say
developed a lot of
interesting.
stuff because cornflakes is under his name as well.
Yep.
So anyway,
But the
yeah.
point I'm making is, or did you realize that Burger King was developed originally to sell milkshake machines back in the day? There's
No,
another one.
that's a good one. I
There's
think
two. There's two.
Dave Thomas started Wendy's late in life, and so did the KFC.
Yep.
So those are stories of entrepreneurship late in life, like people who made it later in life. And of course,
Hmm.
Dave Thomas was big with St. Jude's, which is right in my back door over here in Memphis. So
And
that's
by and
that
if
was a
you
big for him.
and if you want a good founder story, go to Netflix and find the founder, which is the Ray Kroc
Ray
story. Ray
Kroc. Yeah,
Kroc is the one who bought McDonald's from the McDonald's
yeah.
brothers and
The
turned it into
brothers,
the
the actual brothers.
behemoths.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
Some people don't
So,
like him, so it's an interesting story.
yeah, but if you want it, go watch that
There,
documentary
there
because I
is
think
a
it's
on one of the History channels. Maybe it is the History channel. Is one of the network cable channels. They will do stories like how it was started, top stories,
is
and
that
I have
A and
seen
E?
them for
Is
A&E.
that
Maybe
A
it
and E?
was.
Arts and Entertainment?
Maybe so. I have seen stories on like how Fritos started. That was
Yep.
fascinating. Like the foods that built us or whatever it's called. I saw how Hoover Dam was built.
Yeah.
Extremely fascinating. Not really a founder origin story unless you consider the origin story of the Hoover Dam. We don't, by the way, we do not make Marvel wonders like that much anymore in this country. Engineering wonders. They do them in other parts of the world, but not so much here.
What's
Um,
amazing in engineering of dams, and let me share this. Those who
the
don't
Hoover
know
Dam is
Niagara Falls,
especially.
Niagara Falls, Ontario, one of my favorite places in the world, one of the reasons Niagara Falls is so important in North America is power. It's a big
Yeah.
power generator.
Yeah.
And what people don't realize is at the turn of the century, they were building massive power dams in 6 months. And now we can't even get a Toronto subway in 10 years. It's just the
Yeah.
engineering back then, because it was all manual, which just, and these are massive power dams. Like,
I'll tell you something. Another reason that they could do things so fast. Some of the safety standards weren't where they are now, and the
yep.
regulations that are in place. For
Yeah, but
instance,
it's not just that.
I know it's not, but I watched the story on the Golden Gate Bridge being built, and they did that like in 3 years or some crazy nut fat. And
Yeah,
there was a
yeah,
pressure. There was pressure to. They were actually building that in the Oakland Bridge about the same time, and there was a little bit of a race going on. It was again in
yeah,
that
there
A and the
was.
E series, and the Oakland Bridge lost more workers to death than the Golden Gate Bridge.
Yeah,
But because the Golden Gate Bridge put this, the guy who was over this put this vast net underneath where the workers were working. So people, when they fell, they would fall into that net. It was saved, but it slowed them down. Toward
yeah.
the end of that, because the Oakland Bridge was almost done, they started speeding it up, and they did end up losing some people. But people lost their lives in some of these things that they
Yeah.
built. The safety standards were nil compared to today. The regulations were, but
And then you look at the Gordie Howe Bridge, which is the new bridge between Detroit and Windsor, and it's still not open and still going on. So, you
mm,
know,
mm.
um, as we move into 2026, if you're doing copywriting, what's your three top things people need to do?
Oh boy, they're putting me on the spot. But
I am. I'm doing well.
um, well, copywriting and content, my friends in those industries, they quarrel about how they're not the same: content writing, content creation, and
Yep.
copywriting. And I think they're right. Copywriting extends more from the direct response world, even what we do now, conversion copywriting, which is the online equivalent. But I will say this: there's going to be a need to be more of a creative strategist.
Yep.
I think that's a new, well, it's not really a new thing, but it's starting to be something that people are clamoring for, um, because the mechanics of digital marketing we have used for the last 15 years are breaking down, and people are trying to figure out like why. What can I do? It's not simply slapping an ad up anymore. You've got to
Yep.
learn to appeal. Now, obviously, some people have been doing digital marketing with by appealing to their audience correctly and so forth, but a lot of people
Mhm.
have not, and they've been successful. Well, that's not happening anymore. So, creative
Anymore, not at all.
strategy. I think companies are going to start looking for creative strategists. We'll see how that plays out. I am myself looking in that direction. Almost ended up being a creative strategist on a video project. Well, I say almost in terms of somebody actually approached me about it, but they were the agency and the project fell through, so I didn't get the opportunity. Um, so in light of that, I say you should learn how to be more creative with your content.
Yeah.
Um, and I have the remarkable framework, and I used the word extraordinary a while ago. Simply creating something online and putting it up will not do the trick anymore. You've got to have some creativity involved, the mechanics of appealing to uh, people, to their desires and emotions, so forth, those kinds of things. I have this saying: you cannot informate people to action.
Mhm.
Um, and then I had somebody quizzing me, what is informate? I was like, well, I guess I kind of made it up. It's a mashup between information and, any verb that ends with an eight, like curate.
Yep.
So, you can't simply just dump a bunch of info on somebody and expect them to take action. It doesn't work that way. Um, some of us are more logical than others. So we do use logic making decisions, but you can look at the world around you and see that most people really buy on emotions. So actually, that would be the next thing: is like pay attention to the emotions that the buyers use. And I actually set through a great webinar, and I'm going to do a shout out here. Talia Wolf. I've known her for several years. I call her the CRO queen, conversion rate optimization. She has a book out that I'm hoping to get. Emotional targeting is what it's called. And she's got this cohort coming up, and that's why she did the webinar. But it was very good information. I'm actually in the process of trying to summarize what the everything was about, see if I can utilize it somehow. But she did a good job of explaining the ways that you can like find out what the emotional signposts are for people to make a decision. And people in the B2B world don't think that, oh no, people don't use emotion. Yeah, they do actually.
They do all the time.
And yeah, it's like, well, I need to look good for my boss, or I need to, we don't think about that. So it's not just Coca-Cola, um, the cute polar bears and Coca-Cola. And by the way, they have an AI video right now that some people are they had it last year for Christmas and they got another one this year. Actually, it looks a little bit better than the one last year. And, there's this great debate about whether or not it's a good ad and it's ethical and all that kind of stuff. Like, to me, it looks like CGI. And in the past, when something was CGI, we knew it. So I don't think I don't have as much of a problem with it. But Coca-Cola is one of the best appealing emotions. In the early 70s, they came out with I'd like to teach the world to
The
sing in
world is
perfect
same.
harmony. Yeah. Yeah. And that just it just kind of this ideal of closeness and connection. If I drink Coca-Cola with my friends, okay. I mean, you can do that with anything, cup of coffee or whatever.
They
But
Coca-Cola was doing lifestyle advertising
oh yeah,
before the beer companies. Before
oh
the
yeah,
beer companies.
yeah,
And that's
and Red
remarkable.
Bull and
Yep.
Red Bull.
Yep.
So
Yep.
you've got to be, I think you got to think about creativity in your content and attempt to be remarkable, to be remembered, extraordinary, remarkable, whatever word you want to use, because being remembered, if you, to be remembered, you got to not just appeal to like something that gets people's attention, but also appeal to something that connects or sticks to them. So that how the old thing about brand is how you make people feel. Well, how do you make people feel? I
No
really
question.
think we should start focusing metric wise on the LTV rather than the ROI. People
Yep.
will probably disagree with me vehemently on that, but there's a whole lot of churn in business right now, and that's because we have put so much emphasis on getting people to the front door. Then we do a terrible job of customer service and customer experience,
Oh,
and those
customer
two things
service
are
is my biggest pet peeve in the face of the
yeah.
world these days.
Yeah. So
Ask about
find
my
a
last
way.
experience with Lyft, to go to an
Yeah.
experience with the bank recently. I can go on and on and on. Don't even go there.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been, and we've had this conversation, you and I, for years now. The fact that for 30 years or more, we have shortchanged customer service, and I would say customer experience as well. And it's come back to bite us in the butt. Um, Now people they don't have loyalty to brands. Why? Because they don't have good customer service, good experience. They don't make them feel whatever it is that they, need to feel.
Yep. Yep.
And I know, especially in the tech world, it's all about logic and we're all engineers by heart, whatever. But I always say, you ask a tech person about that and you ask them, well, the way I tell you how important those things are is which one is better? This question, which one is better? Star Wars or Star Trek? And why is Star Wars better? You're going to get a reaction.
Yep.
So anyway, so somebody's going to write into you
I
and
have
go, Star Wars is not better.
I have to tell you, I had some foresight years ago before you and I met. I ran a blog called the Customer Service Hall of Shame. And I probably quit writing that about 3 years before we met. And the reason why I quit it is it was just negative bandwidth every day that I couldn't take.
Yeah, yeah.
So I was,
Easy to do.
and it was getting worse and worse and worse. So what I should have written was the customer service exceed or something, because
Yeah,
there's
flip
not
it on
a
its
there's
head,
not
do the opposite.
There's not a
That'd be a
lot of
good
companies.
Substack, Rob.
Yeah,
That'd be a
I've
good
already got
Substack.
it. I've already got a Substack. And if I change, our friend Ryan's gonna dump
You
on
don't
both
need
of
to
us.
change. All you need to do is make another Substack just for that,
Yeah,
and then get
thank you.
people to submit them to you. That's all you got to
Yeah,
do. I've got three, although two of them are active. So
I know.
anyway,
Anyway, Todd, it's been a great year. Thank you for doing the show. It's always appreciated. And a Merry Christmas, Happy New Year to you and your family, and to all our listeners. And we'll be back with more great copywriting content in the new year. Have a great day, Todd.
Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, everyone.
Thank you. This podcast has been brought to you by Stunning Digital Marketing, your digital marketing concierge to help the business owner put all his pieces together, whether it's email marketing, WordPress security, WordPress design and development, PPC, and more. Text Stunning Digital Marketing for all your digital marketing needs today. Very special thank you to Todd Jones for joining me on this edition of the SDM Show. The SDM Show is dedicated to my late father, Bruce Cairns. Dad, I miss you very much every day. My mother, Ann Cairns, who's still doing really well and is an inspiration. And of course, Tiz Maroney. And Tiz, I know I've said it, but thank you so much for all the inspiration you give me every day.